Hi everyone, I'm Barry Mitchell, and welcome to this best of edition of Simply Science, where we'll take a look back at some of our favorite stories of the past season. First up, heading to the hospital for surgery can be stressful for adults, but for children, the anxiety can be overwhelming. Our Andrew Falzone tells us about some new technology that's turning that frightening journey on a gurney into a joyride for kids.
This miniature version of the Hyundai 45 EV looks like the super cool Power Wheels we all wanted as kids. But this battery-powered vehicle gives new meaning to the term joyride. It's the culmination of a groundbreaking three-way project among carmaker Hyundai, SJD Children's Hospital of Barcelona, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It's called the Mini 45, and the hospital's pediatric patients drive it to the operating room before undergoing a procedure. Dr. Neska Alavij is part of the effective computing team at MIT.
So it started at the MIT Media Lab Affective Computing area. The idea came from the hospital where they wanted to distract kids going to the operation room. And we thought about having this ride-on car that will take the kids, not only offering a distraction, but at the same time sensing their physiology and intervening in a way help deal with the anxiety, reduce it mainly, and reduce the stress.
The car does more than distract. It monitors vital signs and mood en route to the OR.
There is the light under the car, so based on the kid physiology can help the doctor to know about the state. So if the kid is not ready to go to the surgery, that will be a red light. This is a sign to do another type of intervention.
The car is in use at SJD Children's Hospital in Barcelona, Spain, where the entire campus is designed with kids in mind. Clowns entertain families awaiting important results, video games are played between treatments, colorful pass-throughs are staged throughout the hospital, and more clowns await in pre-op. But the road to the OR is all about the Mini 45.
Sí que puedo. Vale, te noto súper valiente.
And while it won't get a feature in Car and Driver, the best reviews are coming in from a far more precious clientele. What have they told your team about the results?
They said that the kids are really enjoying this experience and they are really distracted from going to the surgery and how the experience can be painful.
But the car is also a treasure trove of bioinformatic data. The seatbelt contains a haptic feedback sensor which monitors heart rate and respiration, which increase with stress. A small medallion on the seatbelt can provide aromatherapy, releasing a pleasant smell for relaxation. A friendly on-screen guide can lead the child through a breathing game to calm them, and the car's dashboard contains sensors that read the child's facial expressions to determine their emotional state. A whole lot of science disguised as a whole lot of fun.
It's actually a little bit tricky because they are engaged a lot in the car and it's a little bit challenging to get them out of the car.
And while all this tech is helping kids overcome pre-surgical anxiety, the hope is to use it in real cars to help detect road rage or exhaustion.
Many car manufacturers were interested in that, and we had experience with them before. So for now, we are working with Hyundai. We worked before with Daimler. We worked before with Volvo.
And while roadworthy technology is still a work in progress, it's allowing some of the smallest road warriors to get a jump start on the road to recovery. I'm Andrew Falzone for Simply Science.
And now, how do you go to the bathroom in zero gravity? Our Donna Hanover speaks to an actual astronaut to discuss toilets in space.
NASA has sent a new toilet to the International Space Station. And astronauts who've been there, like Jessica Meir, say it's 65% smaller, 40% lighter, and better for women than the old toilet.
So aside from just easier to use and providing better capability to serve dual function ops while you're going to the bathroom, it also should be easier to maintain.
What are you meaning when you say dual function ops?
So dual ops, I'm just talking about number one and number two at the same time. Sometimes, especially I think for women, it's hard to separate those functions, and something that we don't really think about very much when we're using a normal toilet.
Space toilets use suction, like a vacuum, to pull urine and feces away from the body and into the proper receptacles. A funnel pulls away urine, and the seat is there for bowel movements. How is the new toilet better for women than the old one?
This new seat height and position allows you to get that funnel in a position where you can have access to it even while you're sitting on the seat.
Jessica became especially famous on October 18, 2019, as part of the first all-female spacewalk with her friend and colleague Christina Cook. And they did 2 more day-long spacewalks together after that.
We called ourselves Space Sisters.
Their work is intense, but Jessica, like most astronauts, has a sense of humor about all kinds of questions, even on bodily functions. Like, why is it important to keep the urine separate?
So we are actually processing that urine, filtering it, and getting it all ready in a form that we can drink it again as drinking water, to hydrate our food, to drink for ourselves, to fill up those water bags. Today's coffee becomes tomorrow's coffee.
Expedition 63 mission commander Chris Cassidy even made a video showing how the original toilet works.
You take the valve and you turn it on. You hear the fan noise. Check for airflow.
Chris used a water bag to simulate how urine would get sucked down the funnel. Then for number 2,
The seat here is about 5 or 6 inches in diameter, and there's a plastic liner in there where your deposit goes.
he used a package of vegetables that he doesn't really like for that demonstration.
You clean yourself, and the wipes go into there as well. You take this red tab, you pull it off the rim, and depends on how full the container is. This one's about halfway through. We do have a stick, and you push it down in there with all its other friends.
One other improvement in the new toilet is the automatic start of airflow when the seat is lifted, which helps with odor control. Astronauts say the first few times you use a toilet in space do feel a little weird, and the best tips for how to hold steady and prevent mistakes come from crewmates.
You don't want things to be floating away from you in that environment.
Now, your standard earthbound toilet relies on gravity to help you eliminate waste. Gravity also helps you know when you need to go to the bathroom. It's different when you're weightless in space.
Sensing that fullness of your bladder, a lot of that's kind of gravity dependent. You know, of course, here on Earth, all of that urine will sink down to the bottom. It'll be resting in the bottom of your bladder and putting pressure there. In space, it's not necessarily going to be there until your bladder's really full. And I found that in the beginning, it was a little bit complicated where I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to go to the bathroom. And then suddenly it's like, okay, I really need to pee right now.
The old toilets will remain functioning alongside the new one on the space station, so there's more capacity to accommodate larger crews. Meanwhile, the new style of toilet will be along on trips to a different destination in the near future.
The same version will also be in the Artemis II spacecraft. So that is the Orion spacecraft that will be going to the moon, going in orbit around the moon, and then coming back.
So do you want to test it on one of those missions?
Absolutely. I hope that my first test of this system is on a lunar mission. I would love to be involved with those Artemis missions and sending the first woman and the next man back to the moon.
Getting the answers to usually private questions, I'm Donna Hanover for Simply Science.
Did you know there are over 7 million species of insects? Most of them in my kitchen. But like it or not, many of them are disappearing. Why is that? Bugs. Who needs them? When they're not infesting your home, they find other ways to get you.
If I give kids a bunch of microscopes, I can bring a lot of them over to the side of appreciating insects and getting them away from this model that the only good bug is a dead bug.
Dr. David Wagner is an entomologist at the University of Connecticut, a booster of bugs.
Just about anything that's found on land or in fresh water and crawls or creeps.
And lately, their census taker.
Insects are declining. The little things that run the world are having a tough time.
Dr. Wagner is the lead author of a recent group of studies that indicate the Earth's insect population is decreasing by 1 to 2% a year.
1 to 2% doesn't sound like anything at all, but that's losing 10 to 20% of the total number of insects over just a decade.
And this is a problem. Why?
We need insects to eat other bad insects like mosquitoes and aphids and these things that are serious pests. Insects are enormously important in terms of ecosystem services and pollination, so our foods and food security. Once you removed all those insects, all of the food webs in nature would come to a grinding halt in 2 to 3 weeks. And there are people in New York City that will spray their apartment if they find even a housefly in there or a moth. But part of how, yeah, right. Well, that's not necessarily the way to do things.
Okay, so what's causing this insect apocalypse?
The despoiling and the degradation of habitat is the number one threat to insects, turning habitat into strip malls. And behind that, and maybe overtaking it very soon, will be climate change, driving insect diversity down in rainforests. Rainforests are really the cradle of plant and animal diversity on our planet, and we're very afraid that the droughts and the fires associated with climate change are driving sweeping changes in places we're not even measuring yet.
Everyone loves butterflies, and I understand the monarch butterfly is particularly endangered. How come?
It's probably multiple stressors. So now we're starting to think that it's just this huge mass of agriculture and the industrialized agriculture that we have in the Midwest, where this is one of the primary breeding grounds.
Monarchs rely on milkweed and its milkweed nectar, and there's a dwindling supply.
If all of the nectar sources have been sprayed or removed or replaced with these crops that provide no pollen and no nectar, this desert of soybean and corn, it's hard for an insect to get over that.
Then there's the annual monarch migration. Every fall, millions of monarchs make the arduous 2-month journey to Mexico, where they spend the winter in a mountain forest. They can't catch a break there either.
We think we're losing monarchs at the overwintering ground because of climate fluctuation. We have logging at the overwintering sites in Mexico, and there's new diseases that are being introduced that are challenging the monarchs. So right there, we just came up with at least 6 or 7 reasons, Barry, why we think we're losing monarchs. So it's death by 1,000 cut.
Insects have always gotten a bad rap. How do you bring people around?
Well, that's in the United States. By the time we get to Asia, insects are much beloved. And so they're kept as pets, for example. You can buy insects to keep at home, giant beetles with horns and that sort of thing.
I just have this image of someone having a beetle on a leash, on a little leash, and walking the beetle. I have to go walk the beetle, dear. I'll be back later.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's probably somebody that actually does that.
This has been great. David Wagner, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It was fun.
Next, a story from our February show. Our Ari Goldberg takes a look back at the life of a science pioneer who was in many ways a trailblazer.
February is American Heart Month. And of course, February is also Black History Month. So we'd like to take this opportunity to celebrate a woman who encompasses both. The late, great Marie Maynard Daly. She may not be a household name, but, well, to say nothing of racial or gender factors, certainly very few chemists exist in the public eye as household names regardless. But Daly was a pioneer, with accolades from the American Heart Association, New York Academy of Sciences, and American Cancer Society to show for it. Not only did her research contribute to advances in understanding muscles, cells, proteins, and yes, heart health, but she stands as the first Black woman in American history to earn a PhD in chemistry. Marie Maynard Daly was born right here in Queens in 1921, and would go on to graduate with honors from CUNY's own Queens College in 1942. Now, while 1940s America was not exactly a level playing field, This was during World War II, and with a nation mobilized for war, more opportunities were available for women and minorities than had been before. And indeed, someone as gifted as Daly wasted little time taking advantage of that window, enrolling in Columbia University and completing that groundbreaking PhD in 1947. Her work in the field would prove equally groundbreaking. Always interested in cellular chemistry, her research described how muscle cells best absorb creatine, and furthermore, her studies led to new understandings of cell proteins as well as DNA. In fact, when Watson and Crick won the Nobel Prize in 1962 for describing the structure of DNA, Watson cited one of Daly's research papers in his acceptance. And that brings us to the heart. If you know you're supposed to watch your cholesterol for your heart's health, you have Daly to thank. Her studies were the first to call attention to the role of cholesterol in clogged arteries, and also provided a lot of foundational research into our modern understanding of hypertension. By 1986, Daly had retired from research, but not from advocacy. Realizing the importance of her own journey, in 1988 she established a scholarship for African American science students at her alma mater, Queens College. Marie Maynard Daly died at the age of 82 in 2003. But her legacy very visibly lives on, not just as a pioneer of black scientists and heart health, but indeed quite tangibly as well, with the 2016 founding of the new PS360 back in her hometown of Queens, dedicated as the Dr. Marie M. Daly Academy of Excellence, a monument to a trailblazer and an inspiration for those to follow. For Simply Science, I'm Ari Goldberg.
Now that pandemic restrictions are beginning to be lifted, many of us are still missing out on things we used to take for granted. Going to work, going for a haircut, hanging out with friends, going to a restaurant. But how has the long-term isolation affected our innate hunger to connect with others? Ask Mike Gilliam.
I miss running into people spontaneously. I miss seeing people in the hallway or in the office and just having a little chit chat.
It was very sad in the beginning because I'm not the type of person where I'm home all the time. I like to go outside. I like to experience things, especially in the heart of New York City.
I just miss being able to see my friends and not have to worry about hugging them or getting close to them.
Everyone's affected by the pandemic in one way or another. Now researchers have found that isolation has caused people to crave human contact, just like hungry people crave food.
What we found was that people who have been isolated, they showed very similar responses in a certain brain region, like people who have been fasted.
Dr. Olivia Tomova conducted a study of 40 people when she was at MIT. She's now at Cambridge and talked to us via Zoom from her home in Vienna. Tomova says to measure food cravings, subjects would fast and be scanned after being shown pictures of pizza and cake. They also isolated people for 10 hours before showing them pictures of people interacting.
So it wasn't that extreme what we did, but still we saw that a lot of people responded really strongly to that.
The study began long before the pandemic, but it's even more important now that people are working from home.
It indicates how sensitive our brain is to the experience of not having enough social contact, like how soon we already seem to see changes in our brain responses.
Which brings us to one of the key ways we're connecting during the pandemic, social media, which can be good, but not always.
The pandemic has increased my use of social media quite extensively, and I noticed how my well-being is going down when I use Instagram a lot.
Tomova offers some advice.
So if we interact through social media in an active way where we actually chat with someone and there's a back and forth, that seems to be helpful and that seems to increase well-being. While if we use it in a passive way, so just looking at pictures of others but not actually interacting with anyone, that seems to actually decrease well-being. This passive usage of social media kind of seems to do something that actually makes people feel more disconnected and lonely rather than the other way around.
So what we're doing right here, back and forth on a Zoom call, is that a good thing during the pandemic?
I mean, I would say so, yeah. It seems to come really close to the real experience of social interactions, right? There's, we have like communication, there is sharing of content.
What is it that we learned from that study that you did that might help us to understand what's going on mentally and psychologically during the pandemic?
So I think one sort of general takeaway of our study is that it sort of highlights how important being connected with others is for humans. So if already one day of being alone makes our brains respond as if we have been fasted for the whole day, it sort of suggests that our brain is very sensitive to the experience of being alone. So in terms of social distancing, we might have to pay special attention to people's well-being and their mental health if they have to spend time in isolation.
So with isolation, the hunger to connect grows stronger every day, prompting most of us to dream of people getting together again when things return to normal. I'm Mike Gilliam for Simply Science.
Fashion takes a lot of work. You think I just wake up looking like this? And into every stylish coat or gown goes hours of planning, sketching, and geometry. Here's Lisa Beth Kovitz.
Science is an art form, when it comes to fashion. The geometry aspect is the basic way to construct a garment.
Jean Rebel is a bespoke dressmaker, designing and building individual garments for high-end clients.
I was barely 6 or 7 years old. I was looking at a Paris match that had the wedding of Beatrice of Holland with Klaus. And I was fascinated at such a very young age, by the beauty and, the colors, and the luxury, of dressing.
And while the geometry of fashion has become second nature to this artist, it remains a very basic element to his design.
Geometry is more adapted to women when it comes to creating a pattern, because it has to do with shape and curve and precision. For men, it's created mathematically with lines of a neckline, shoulders, sleeve, body.
And some of the most luxurious dresses made today use a very specific geometry called the bias cut, creating garments that hang and move with extraordinary grace. So what is a bias cut?
If you hold a piece of fabric, so you have the grain lined vertically and horizontally. The welt and the wall goes up and down and then straight across. When you have to cut something on the bias, you have to go diagonal, to cut the shape. It gave it that it flows with ease and lightness, so the movement appear to be more gracious to the viewer, to the people. So it makes it a more attractive way of movement.
When the bias cut was first introduced in the 1920s by French designer Madeleine Vionnet, the fashion world was astounded by her discovery, and the bias became the basis for 1930s haute couture. And Vionnet's nickname, the architect of fashion, can be applied to both her designs and to her revolutionary labor practices that included paid holidays and maternity leave for factory workers. And the bias cut is extraordinarily elegant, but back to geometry. It's not economical, as large pieces of fabric are wasted and therefore not often found in mass-produced garments. But as a bespoke designer, Rebel can indulge in creating luxurious bias-cut garments for interested clients.
Mostly, I make one garment. It's which is not necessarily one of a kind, but that's how it's created, because my work is for private orders, individual orders, if you want to describe.
And one of those private clients wanted an early 20th century style cocoon coat that draped and moved in a very particular manner.
In order to interpret this piece of garment, I have to go to the geometric aspect of it to understand how the lines are created in order to arrive to the coat. To demonstrate, the bias cut, the side of the coat is cut on a diagonal line, so that gives you the soft drape of the fabric. It's they look like waves.
The inspiration for this particular coat started with the fabric. So what's it like to work daily with these beautiful materials?
If you love what you do, then you'll be a happy worker. Because, loving work, mostly for me, doesn't have to do with wealth. It's a lot more satisfying, to do something that you love at heart, because it's always exciting, no matter what.
This has been Lisa Beth Kovitz for Simply Science.
And that's a look back at our past season. Remember, you can always find us on the web at tv.cuny.edu, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I'm Barry Mitchell. Thanks for watching. Be sure to use sunscreen, and we'll see you next time on Simply Science.